What's up, guys? This is Phin-Addict Fury, your host, Larry Crane, Lawrence Crane, Lucia. Look, I know I haven't been on in a long time. I know it's been a while, but this is right after this Bills loss, and I just wanted to pop on and just, say a few things, get it off my chest. I will be back eventually, but I'm so busy, guys. I have the Logic and Larry podcast, which is a big thing that I do every other week. It's a political podcast. I write for another sports outlet. I write other things. And I got a day job, so it's just been tough. But look, today's game, I think, tells us a lot. I think, number one, it tells us that this offensive line is a complete disaster. And I know people keep saying that, the offensive line has been a complete disaster for years, for decades. It's always a disaster, the offensive line. We can't get it fixed, yada, yada, yada. Look, guys, the truth is that, what's more infuriating to me about the offensive line is not that it's been so bad. It's that every time we are close to rectifying it, every time we're close to getting it better, we go and tweak it to the point of being terrible again. So when Tony Sparano was the coach in 2009, we had one of the better offensive lines. And then he started shuffling everybody and moving it around and tweaking it and trading guys. And before you know, we had a terrible offensive line again. This time, with Flores, last year was the first time in years, right? Tannehill never had a competent line. Last year, we weren't great, but we finally looked like we had a somewhat quasi-capable offensive line. Now, part of that was Fitz, and Fitz just being able to create despite lack of protection, but some of it was the fact we had a legitimately better offensive line. And as soon as we do that, we let our starting center walk, and we trade our guard. And I don't understand why we did that. And we rolled with these second-year players and now these rookies, and we're tweaking them around. And what happened? They're absolutely pathetic again. What was the need? We didn't need the extra pick with Flowers. We didn't need, to switch the centers up with Dieter. We didn't need to do any of that. Why don't we just keep the guys we had and build on it? Now we've dug ourselves a hole, and we look terrible. And so the offensive line, I think, was the primary responsibility for why we were so terrible this week. And there's no getting around that. Now, do I think we could play better? Yeah, I think, look, Buffalo owns us. They're 5-0 against us in the last 5 games. Flores, despite being great against the Patriots so far, is 0-4 against the Bills. Actually, he's 0-5. And it's just been a disaster with the Bills. We just don't match up well with them. They own us. It is what it is. So do I think we can move on and have a decent season? Yeah. Is it looking more like a 500 season than a playoff season? Yeah, right now it is. But, when a week goes by, we'll see how we play against Oakland. We'll see how we do. And maybe we'll be better off. But the offensive line was the primary driver of this. There's no doubt about it. The defense played okay. I mean, quite frankly, until the end of the second half, when Buffalo just started running away with it, the defense kept us in it aside from the 2 first drives. With turnovers and with decent stops, if the offense had done anything, and, I'll get to in a minute whose fault it was on offense, aside from the O-line, but if they had done anything, we would have been able to make it a game. But what I really want to talk about today, and I know there's a lot of people that are going to disagree or be angry about it, but the truth is, look, even when the offensive line was bad, we left a lot of plays on the field because the wide receivers were dropping balls left and right. It was just an absolutely pathetic showing by the wide receivers. And the fact is, this is going to be the hardest pill to swallow of this whole video for a lot of you. The fact is, Brissett, when he got in there, despite terrible O-line play, Brissett was able to step aside from pressure, to avoid pressure, to move around in the pocket, to look downfield, to make multiple reads, and to deliver the football, whether they caught it or not, to individuals down the field. Brissett didn't look great. Brissett wasn't a world beater. He didn't get to score any points, right? But you'd be lying to yourself. I'm sorry, you'll be lying to yourself if you don't admit that Brissett, despite not looking great, Brissett looked better and more competent than Tua. And I think the biggest travesty of this whole game is the fact that people are now going to say, well, Tua wasn't in. the O-line so bad and just give Tua another pass in their head. This loss wasn't Tua's fault. Of course, he was barely in. But the fact that if Tua had played this whole game, he would have been shut out as well. And you would have seen, and there would have been less question about Tua going forward. Brissett looks better than Tua. I actually think that in the next few weeks, with Tua probably being out with bruised ribs, I think with Brissett getting first-team reps and our defense holding tough, and if our receivers could actually have decent days and catch the ball with the type of caliber receiver we have and the depth we have, I actually think we have a better chance at winning with Brissett in the game because he's bigger, he's more durable, he moves in the pocket better, he reads the field better. He's just a better QB. It doesn't mean Brissett's great. It just means if Brissett, a journeyman who most teams have given up on being a franchise QB, if Brissett is better than Tua, even if they're equal, say you don't think Brissett's better, say you just agree he's equal, that's not good because Tua was supposed to be a franchise-changing star quarterback. A franchise-changing star quarterback. If a journeyman, the second journeyman, because Fitz was better than him last year, and now Brissett are better or equal, he's not what you thought he was. He's not a franchise-changing quarterback, which means what are we doing? I don't know if you give up the king's ransom for Watson, somebody who's got legal troubles pending. But it's clearly a possibility because also look at Grier's drafting. I mean, Grier's drafting has been terrible in the upper rounds. It just has been. We got a terrible a tackle that's not playing good at all. A corner that's not even active. What's the point of having a quarterback who's probably the biggest bust? It looks like even if Tua winds up being a journeyman, he's still a bust compared to what people thought he was going to be. So what's the difference? Why don't we just go ahead and trade for Watson? Who cares? I mean, at this point, and you got to question something else. I think Flores is a pretty good coach, but today was a terrible coaching job, and he's been out-coached every time they play the Bills. And you just got to wonder. You just got to start to wonder now. You just do. If maybe Flores is a tough personality to deal with, right? Because when you look at this offense, the first year he had a decent offense. He fires his offensive coordinator. Goes out and gets Chan Gailey because he works with Fitz. Fires him the next year. Not saying Gailey's great, but now, instead of hiring, imagine if he had hired a legitimate offensive coordinator, which I called for in previous videos. I said he should hire an older, more experienced offensive coordinator who could kind of take charge of that unit and kind of run with that unit and be innovative, didn't I? And what he did was he internally promoted two guys internally who have okay resumes, but not great resumes. Now they're co-offensive coordinators. And the first game, they were okay, but they weren't world-beating. And some of that's on the O-line, some of that's on Tua. But, you got to be innovative. Start moving the pocket. When your offensive line's not protecting, move the pocket. Be innovative, right? Adjust. You can't help but wonder with the dismal showing of the offense. Partly it's the personnel with the O-line, but with those receivers and everything else, maybe this dual offensive coordinator thing with two guys who really aren't, the type of name or the type of guys you would necessarily want to be running things. Maybe these two guys, maybe this was a bad promotion. And I'm not willing, look, I am by no means willing to give up on Flores. Grier, I'm a little closer to kind of calling it quits on Grier, but not yet. They've built a solid team with really good wideout depth. Now, the Fuller thing, that's a shame. And the fact our receivers had a terrible day. There's no getting around the fact that the receivers today were terrible. They dropped the ball. They were terrible. But they had a bad day, okay, against a team that seems to own them. Their QB went down. They got another guy coming in they're not used to. Let's see how they do over the next couple games. I mean, at the end of the day, I still think our receivers have a lot of depth. I think our D-line, I think our defense in general, I think our secondary, I think they're very good. I'm not ready to give up on Grier. I'm not ready to give up on Flores. I hope they do well. But if they don't get, they got to sell. What they got to do, man, they got to start thinking about what they're going to do at QB, because I don't think Tua is the answer. I don't think Brissett's the answer. They got to figure out, are they going to draft a guy? Are they going to trade? Or are they going to concede that Tua is not a franchise changer and just try their best to build around him? If they are, they better sell out everything to get offensive linemen next year. And they could even trade right now for offensive line help. I mean, they got to do something. And when you really break down that Tunsil trade now in hindsight, okay, we got a bunch of picks for Tunsil, but have we done anything productive with them? Would we be better off with Tunsil, who's an exceptionally good offensive lineman? Maybe. Maybe all these trades and all this fanfare wasn't worth it. Maybe it wasn't. We got to do something. We got to do something. But they got to decide, number one, what they're doing at QB, and number two, they got to go all out with the O-line. You got to build a competent O-line. You got to stop. When you get a guy who's halfway decent and competent, stop trading him. When you got a guy who's good at left guard or right tackle or something, stop moving him to another position. Stop tweaking the O-line. You're going to have to fix the O-line. Number one. But the concerning thing is the QB. When Brissett looked better, I'm actually excited about seeing Brissett in the coming weeks. I think we could win games. If that's the case, that's really bad for Tua. But overall, it comes down to that O-line and the quarterback position. And really the O-line. Today, receivers dropped a lot of passes. It's on them. Just a bad game all over. By the way, Xavier Howard is still amazing. The fact that they kept him is the one good thing they got going for them with me right now. They finally kept a good player and paid him. Thank God they paid him. Because he's the best player on the team. He will single-handedly win us games. He single-handedly pretty much won us last week's game. And he kept us in this week's game, but we just wanted no part of winning. The guys just didn't want to play today for some reason. Except for some guys at the defense, Howard and Brissett. No one else wanted to play. Now, it's a shame what happened to Tua, but I'm telling you, it just shows. He's injury-prone. The kid is injury-prone. He's injury-prone. Yeah, that was a clean shot. I'm not saying that was like, the shot that any other guy would walk away from or anything, but he's injury-prone. His pocket awareness isn't great. And you got a terrible O-line. Tua's not going to do well behind a terrible O-line. He can't create plays. Even Brissett could create a few plays. The best ones create plays all the time. Allen creates plays. Tua's not going to do that. But today's loss is really on the O-line and the wide receivers dropping balls left and right. And that's the end of it. Those are my thoughts on the game. I just wanted to kind of point some of those things out. I'm glad we're 1-1 and we're still in the AFC East race. It's funny that the Jets lost again. They're 0-2. Wilson looks terrible, despite all the fanfare in the summer about how great he was. I know it's his only second game. We'll see how he does. But all the fanfare about how great Wilson was going to be, and he was named a captain. He's so great, blah, blah, blah. They're 0-2. We still have a shot at the division. We still have a shot at the playoffs. But we better get our stuff together, and we better do it quick. And we need to, if Brissett starts taking off, you're going to have yourself a quarterback controversy in Miami. If Brissett wins a couple games over the next couple weeks, and he looks good, and he looks better than him, and the line gets a little better, we're going to have a quarterback controversy. But I don't know, if the line can't get any better than that, we're done. But I'm not willing to say they're going to totally tank the season yet, because they've done this before with Buffalo. So you can't say the season's over. You just can't. There's a lot more football to play. There's 17 games in a season now. So there's a lot more to do. With Brissett at the helm, if they could try to clean up some of that O-line stuff, and the receivers don't drop the ball. I don't think the receivers are going to drop like they did today. I think we still have a chance to make the playoffs. But after this season, look, we're still not Super Bowl contenders. We're not even championship contenders. At the end of the season, you got to fix quarterback. You got to figure what you're going to do with quarterback. You got to fix the O-line. Pretty much the primary focus should be on the O-line. They might even want to trade now for O-linemen, because this is just a joke. But you got to sell out for O-linemen. Free agency and the draft's got to be all O-line. All O-line. You don't really need anything else except O-line at this point. O-line. Quarterback. Figure out what you're doing. Trade for Watson, draft somebody, whatever you're going to do, do it. And then if I was Flores, I would stop with the ego trip, whatever he's got going on. I would hire an offensive coordinator who could stand on his own, who's an innovative guy, who has a plan for the personnel in Miami. Because as a lifelong Dolphins fan, and I'm 36 years old, it's going to be a damn shame if we had a coach this competent, a defense this good, another round of star players like Howard to go with all the futility of Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas and Sam Madison. It's going to be a damn shame if we have another defensive talent, another superstars, another era go to waste because we can't fix the O-line, get a damn quarterback that's the future, and hire a competent offensive coordinator. We're going to need to do it. I'm not giving up on the season. I'm a fan. I can't wait till next week. I love football season. It's all great. I'm glad to talk to you guys again. This was supposed to be a live video, and I was looking forward to sitting back here in the beautiful weather and talking to you guys live, but YouTube says I don't qualify, so I had to do this mobile video and then just post it. But I'll see you, and I'll talk to you soon. Like I said, I got a lot of things going on. I don't know how consistent it'll be. Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe, because I'll be on whenever I can, and we'll talk about things, and hopefully I can get live at some point so we can discuss things live. But not giving up, but those are some pointers, some points I just had to touch on, Dolphins Nation. I had to hit those points, Dolphins Nation. I had to do it. I had to do it. And again, Phin-Addict fury. I'm addicted to the Fins, but they infuriate me. This is the O-line, receivers dropping passes, but if you don't recognize that Brissett looked more competent, more durable, and better at making decisions and getting the ball out than Tua, I don't have to tell you. Tua's going to get killed behind this O-line, even if he comes back after the cracked ribs or the bruised ribs. Even if he comes back, the O-line's not going to give him time. He's not going to be able to function. He can't run the offense with that O-line. You either get him the stoutest O-line ever and hope he can become a above average guy, or you move on. You get a traditional, taller, bigger, more pocket-driven QB. But this wasn't supposed to be all about Tua. It just when thinking about the whole season in the future, this game sucked. I just want to forget about this season. One thing I noticed was the competency of Brissett. Let's see what happens next week. Get that line fixed. Eichenberg's terrible. Jackson's terrible. Just do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. Fire the O-line coach. I don't know. Do something. But that's my thoughts. Hopefully next week is much better. It's a late game. We're going to have to stew on this all week. The kind of guy I am, I don't like to watch any football stuff after the Dolphins get trampled, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, in the meantime, Fins up. Hope everybody's enjoying nice weather around the country. Hope everybody could just have a drink and enjoy the rest of their Sunday despite this crazy loss. Hope everybody's using their head about what I talked about on this video. Talk to you soon. Later.